Great to have you on the show with us today, sir. Now, of course, this week we did see the Naira weakening to record lows against the dollar. It fell to 1,000 Naira per dollar at the parallel market, 29% weaker than, of course, the official rate. So give us a sense of how much this uncertainty at the central bank is driving the Naira's performance right now versus, of course, other economic fundamentals in the country.
Thank you very much. And I think indeed it wasn't a surprise because, again, some weeks ago, there was an announcement that Nigeria was going to clear the backlog of dollar obligations that it had. But in those 2 weeks, nothing has happened. And that, of course, led to a lot of speculation. And one of the key issue was that in the past 3 weeks as well, there has not been any liquidity in the forex market. While the uncertainty in the central bank is definitely an issue, but there were other fundamentals, especially when the central bank was not playing in the market in terms of bringing dollars to the market. Of course, those who require dollars will run to the parallel market, and then it's not surprising that the prices went up again, as we've seen. So many things are responsible, but again, a key point is the lack of action that have taken place in terms of bringing dollar liquidity. That is the main driver at the parallel market.
Right. Well, certainly that lack of action is set to change now that we have a new central bank governor, Yemi Cardoso. And he's been pretty clear that he's looking to restore the central bank's autonomy, its credibility. But what are your views on the measures he's proposing so far? How do investors and also Nigerians feel about this new man who's at the helm of the central bank?
There is certainly some level of optimism, not just at locally within the Nigerian economy, even externally, because Cardoso comes with a good background in banking and finance, and he has again promised during his hearing that he was going to deal with the backlog issue. I think that is a major concern for especially foreign investors. If they are not sure that when they put any money in the country, they can repatriate that money or repatriate their capital, it would always lead to lack of confidence in the Nigerian market. And that's why the short-term measure that he has proposed, which is dealing with the backlog. I don't know where the money is going to come from, maybe from the reserves. The question is that the current backlog, if you put it at $6.8 billion, that is the official amount that is there, that would take almost 50% of the amount in the reserve that Nigeria can actually spend, and that is going to be very significant. So we are hoping that with the prospect in oil prices, more sales in the of oil exports could really increase the liquidity. There's also the Afrexim Bank promise to bring some liquidity in the Nigerian National Oil Company. That swap is supposed to make that dollar liquidity available, but we haven't seen that yet. But we are thinking that when all of this work together and you can deal with the backlogs, and then there is a strict following the due diligence within the bank's operation, the central bank's operations, it can indeed bring confidence into the Nigerian market. And then we are hoping that foreign investors can then begin to bring in their dollar inflow, and that liquidity can increase, and of course that would definitely reduce the pressure on the naira. So there's optimism at the end of the day.
Really? But well, let's then delve into the realities on the ground right now, because we know Cardoso, he's taking over a central bank that's currently in turmoil. Emefiele is currently being held by state security forces. The economy also in tatters, especially following the removal of that subsidy. What do you think the road ahead looks like for him, given the economic fundamentals right now?
Okay, there are several dimensions to take this. The first one is, the governance challenge and the uncertainty in the governance atmosphere itself is bringing some issues. It's causing showing some level of instability in that sense. But apart from that, it's going to be a slow process. The economy is going to drag on for a while. It's going to be painful, as it already is right now. And there's not going to be an immediate response, but in the long term, in the medium term, we are definitely seeing that once those fundamentals get right, number one, when they deal with the issue of deficit financing, and he did mention that in his Senate hearing, where basically we were not earning money, but we are printing money. The central bank in the previous administration of Emefiele was basically funding the government or printing Naira basically. And of course, when there's a lot of money supply, inflation is going to go up. So if all of that comes under control, and then there is a way to do the debt buyback that the federal government was proposing recently, there are some fundamentals that will shift, instill confidence, but it's not going to be immediate. And that is the major problem here is between now and when we begin to see the result, it's going to take some time. And that itself is going to cause major hardship. A lot of people are going to fall back into poverty. There's going to be a lot of problem with the production in the system. But in the long term, if we continue and steady the race, we can weather the storm and come back to to the path of growth.
Well, it is interesting because how much time does this government have with the biggest labor unions in the country currently calling for an indefinite strike from October 3rd? And that's, of course, over the sharp rise in the cost of living in the country. With Nigerians unhappy, what's your take on the current state of affairs?
It is very, it's a very, it's a turbulent time in the country at the moment. The cost of living is real and people are really, really suffering. That is the reality, especially with the withdrawal of subsidy and then the, free floating of the forex market. But I would say that it is terrible in the short term. And with this, the threat of strike by the labor movement in the country, it's also going to worsen the situation. So what you expect to see, and this is my prophesying, I don't know whether that is going to be the case with the government, is that there will be some attempts to ameliorate the suffering by bringing in some social measures, some social spending, or rather what you call just cushion the effect of the palliatives, as they called it. But the problem here is that there's a lot of trust deficit in terms of how the government manages the palliatives or any social welfare measure that they would take, that they've done in the past. And so because of that lack of trust, it will be difficult to see how they can convince the labor movement that these attempts to cushion the impact of this hardship that we're experiencing now is really going to work. We are really hoping that they will come to the table, they will negotiate this. Labor is saying that the government is still, said they're using the word, they are grandstanding and thinking that we are doing the right thing, so there's nothing we can do about this. The fundamentals are not really driven by us, only external interest rates are going up. It means we are paying a lot of debt back. And most of the revenues we are getting, we're using to pay debt. But we are hoping that they can also find a middle ground. The middle ground being that, okay, there are opportunities of ramping up revenues. There are opportunities of increasing oil sales to get more liquidity. Opportunity of reducing the backlog of forex shortages that can then bring in confidence, raise the confidence and bring in foreign direct investment and portfolio investors so that there's more liquidity. All of those measures, if the government is able to articulate them properly to the understanding of the man on the street, then people might then cooperate and endure through this short-term hardship so that in the medium term, things will begin to go well. That is the hope. We are hoping, but again, policy ideas and policy implementation are two different things.